Right, now on to the Apple Time Flies event. Tim Cook unveiled the new iPad Air, the new iWatch, and today the iOS 14 is going to be released. Is it worth an upgrade, and are all the new launches worth your money? I'm going to be discussing that and more with my next guest, Daniel Gleeson, now joining us live all the way from London. Daniel, thanks so much for taking the time out. It was the first for Apple, a virtual event. September, we've gotten used to all kinds of big launches, a lot of fanfare, but obviously that couldn't happen. But you did see, and I'll begin with the iWatch. What did you think of the iWatch, the new features that the new iWatch has, the price tag? Do you think it's worth the price tag?
I'm actually very impressed with the new Apple Watch range as a whole. And I think it's very important to say that it is now a range. Because it wasn't just the Apple Watch 6 that we got. We also have this Apple Watch SE and also being sold alongside the Apple Watch Series 3. So we have three very clear price points for the Apple Watch with different feature sets, with different people that they're targeting. And I think in that regard, this has been a very successful product range for Apple in that sense, that it puts a very clear marker down as to where the different targeting is. At the top end for the Apple Watch 6, Series 6, I think it's really hitting kind of like a very important part of the market right now. And particularly the strong focus and the big innovation feature with it is, of course, the blood oxygen testing that you can do with it. And of course, at the moment, when everyone's very hypersensitive about health and monitoring your health and your well-being, in particular for trying to target any respiratory illnesses, then that is a very, very valuable feature for Apple to be able to add. And I can definitely imagine that selling very, very well over the next year when we're still living with COVID.
Okay, and now if I could come to the new iPad Air. Looks a lot like the old Pro. What do you think of it? Is it worth an upgrade?
Yeah, I'm less enthusiastic when it comes to the new iPad models. Again, it's called mainly, and even when you think about it, it's called the iPad Air, and that branding is generally associated with a device that's going to be very slim, very light, obviously very light, as you can see by the name Air, but very stylish. But this new iPad Air, it's actually thicker than the old iPad Pro. And so that does mean, in my head, there's a bit of a clash in terms of what is that branding supposed to be, and how then is this different from the iPad Pro, or at least how are you marketing it differently to the iPad Pro? So that's really my main concern with the iPad in terms of how it's going to be sold. In terms of the device itself, however, it's an excellent tablet, as you can always expect with iPads. My big concern always with many of the iPads over the last few years is not that the quality of the device. I'm not worried about the quality of the device. The quality of the device is always going to be excellent. My main worry is just the tablet market globally is fairly stagnant, and I'm not seeing a revolutionary concept, or I'm not seeing something that will force people to go out and say, yes, I definitely need this iPad. I'm going to upgrade, or I've never had a tablet before. I'm going to spend, $500, $600, $700 on this when I've never had a tablet before. So that's a very, very high bar to jump for Apple. The tablet iPad business has been doing quite well recently. I think it's mainly because the iPad Pros have done very well at selling people who already have tablets and who already have that they need to do better, or that they can do more with them, particularly in a prosumer setting, where it's being used by artists or by graphic designers. But that's not really what the iPad Air's demographic is, or what the target market for the iPad Air is, which is much more consumer or much more casual usage based. So I'm less
because,
enthusiastic. enthusiastic about that.
David, we could just very quickly interject there because we're running out of time. And it was a very interesting point you made that you're not seeing anything very revolutionary. So before we wrap up, should one therefore then temper their expectations from the launch of the iPhone 12?
I'm not so sure, mainly because there's a lot of things with the new iPhone that I'm really looking forward to seeing. Most notably, I'm really looking forward to seeing if we have a 5G iPhone, or if we're going to be waiting another year for that, because that's really the big question for me. And that can be very informative as to how Apple's sales are going to do over the next year. Even the fact that we didn't get an iPhone launch now, and an announcement now, is very, very important and is very worrying for Apple. It means, for the first time in 9 years, we won't have an iPhone launch at the end of September, which of course means Apple's third quarter results are going to be missing a couple of weeks of high sales, which means their Q3 number is going to be quite low. And of course, going in then into next year, it's going to have a knock-on effect. And if there are shortages generally in terms of chipsets or getting some key components, then that's obviously going to impact how ambitious Apple can be with the new iPhone. And that's really more my worry. It's not so much what are the ambitions or is there technology that they can put in that could be exciting for the iPhone. It's can they actually get access to just the silicon to be able to make those things happen.
David Gleeson, thanks so much for joining us all the way from London with your views on the Time Flies Apple event, what it signifies for customers and the markets at large. With that, ladies and gentlemen, completely out of time. Many thanks for tuning in. We'll see you same time tomorrow.